Right, hello everyone, and now we will just go through the final bit of curve sketching, that is if we get a cubic equation. Right, again, the equation is in set form and cubic equation, so we have x to the power of 3. Okay, so the first thing we do is find the points of intersection with the y-axis. So we put x is equal to 0 and we see where it meets the y-axis. So let's do that. Y is equal to 0 cube minus 4 times 0 square plus 0 plus 6, which is just 6. And I haven't included the table over here for this question, so I'll just manually put it like that. Might look a bit untidy. So yeah, if we have x is equal to 0, then my y is equal to 6. That's the first point. Easy peasy. So let's move to the next one, and that won't be as easy peasy. So for the next one, we need to find what is x when y is equal to 0, right? So in that case, we will have 0 equal to x cube minus 4x squared plus x plus 6, right? Now we no longer have a quadratic. How do we solve this? So we use something called hidden trial method to find the first factor. And by first factor, I mean that because it's a cubic equation, we'll have x plus minus n1 times x plus minus n2. I mean, this is what you get if you had a quadratic, right? X plus some constant, x plus another constant, plus minus. But now because we have a cubic equation, we'll have another factor, which is x plus minus n3, right? So we know how to solve a quadratic. So if we could get this x minus plus minus n3, then whatever left out will be this quadratic over here, which we are comfortable with solving. So how do we find this x plus minus n3? We use this method called hidden trial method to find the first factor. And what this method tells us is we have this equation of y and x. Y is equal to x cubed minus 4x squared plus x plus 6, right? Now, if I put any value of x over here, like any number, if I substitute x as any of that number and I get y is equal to 0, that basically tells me that that number satisfies this curve over here, right? So if any of these factor is equal to 0, which means if any of the x, let's say x plus n3 comes out to be 0, then that would make this entire thing is equal to 0, right? Because 0 times this quadratic is 0. So my y will eventually be 0. So I'm just using that logic over here. And let's say if I substitute x by 1, then what do I get? I have 1 cube minus 4 times 1 plus 1 plus 6. Is that equal to 0? I have 1 minus 4 plus 1 plus 6. Nah, clearly that's not 0, right? So x equal to 1, not so lucky. X equal to 2, you can try that out again, but I can tell you that we highly likely won't get 0. We might as well. But anyways, what I do know that if I put minus 1, x by minus 1, I should get a 0. So I'll just show you how. If I have minus 1 cube minus 4 times minus 1 square plus of minus 1 plus 6, right? So what do I have? I have minus 1 minus 4 times minus 1 is plus 1 plus 6. So be very careful with the plus and minus when you have this cube and square. That's a common error. Clearly, this is minus 1, minus 4, minus 1. That is minus 6 plus 6. That makes it 0. Okay. So, when x is equal to minus 1, then my y is equal to 0, which means my x plus 1. I'm bringing this this minus 1 on the left hand side. So, x plus 1 is a factor, right? If my x is equal to minus 1, then x plus 1 is equal to 0. And if I multiply the 0 term to the entire thing, then it makes my y is equal to 0. And which is what we have. We have y is equal to 0, right? So we got x plus 1 as a factor using hidden trial method, right? X plus 1 is a factor. So use hidden trial method, and whatever number, let's say you put any number as n, and that makes y is equal to 0, then that means your x minus n a factor. So in our case, x is equal to minus 1 made y is equal to 0, therefore x plus 1 is a factor. Okay, right. Now to find the quadratic, we need to perform this thing called long division method. So some of you have already know how to do it. You can skip forward in this video, but I'll just quickly run the rest through how we perform long division method. So we have what we want to divide is x cubed minus 4x squared plus x plus 6, right? We want to split it up into two components. The first component is the factor which you have already found, this guy, x plus 1, and if we divide it, I want to have, I expect a quadratic. I expect a quadratic if I divide this term with this cubic equation. So the way you do long division is you kind of visualize. The first term I have is x cubed. How can I get, what should I multiply to x so that I get an x cubed? X squared, right? So if I multiply x squared, right? Oh, I should just write it over here. So if I multiply x squared, then what do I have? X squared times x is x cubed, and then x squared times plus 1 is plus x squared, right? Do not worry about the rest, right? Because you can only have two terms at a time because we have two terms over here. So then you just subtract it, and x cubed and minus x cubed cancels out, and then minus 4x squared minus x squared will make it minus 5x squared, right? So this is my remainder, and then bring the other terms down. I have minus 5x squared plus x plus 6. Step number 2. What should I multiply 2x plus 1 so that I get minus 5x squared? Simple, minus 5x. If I multiply minus 5x by x, I have minus 5x squared. So then I have minus 5x squared, and then minus 5x times 1 is minus 5x. So I have minus 5x, right? I just ran out of space. So what I'll do is I'll just do it over here. So if I subtract these, then minus 5x squared and minus 5x squared will cancel out. This minus will become plus, right? This minus will become plus. So I have x plus 5x will give me 6x, and this term will just carry forward. So I have 6x plus 6. And the last step is, what should you multiply to x to get 6x plus 6? So then you see that we have 6x plus 6 coming out at the end. And if you subtract it, you have both these terms cancelling out. So I have a 0 as my remainder, which is what we want. Okay. So clearly my y, which is x cubed minus 4x squared plus x plus 6, is equal to a split of the first factor which we found out using hidden trial method, and the quotient of the long division method, which is x squared minus 5x plus 6. Now if you were to open the brackets, you would eventually get the same thing as this, right? Now we know how to solve a quadratic, and we have already solved this quadratic in the previous example. So this is clearly, I have x plus 1, and this will give me x minus 2 times x minus 3. This two terms is coming from this term, x squared minus 5x plus 6. So I have split the cubic equation into three factors, and that is equal to 0. So that's my step 2 done. And step 2, basically this will tell you that y is equal to 0 when x is equal to either minus 1 or plus 2 or plus 3, right? Okay. Now the final one is to find the points of maxima and minima. Now because this is a cubic equation, we might have 2 points where we get maxima and minima. So we have y dash, and y dash is equal to, let's say, 3x squared minus 8x plus 1, right? So then you solve this quadratic, and once you solve this quadratic, you'll get two values of x, so two critical points, 1 and 2, and then you find its corresponding y coordinate, 1 and 2. So this is something which I won't cover now because I've already done that for the parabola part. So once you find this, basically the idea is that now you will have 3 points of intersection with the x-axis. So y is 0 when x is equal to minus 1, when x is equal to 2, and when x is equal to 3, right? So the maximas you get, the maxima and minima, you might eventually have one maxima and one minima, which means you might have one maxima somewhere over here and one minima somewhere over here, and you know where it touches the y-axis from step 1, right? From step 1. So now it's just a matter of joining these points. So we know that the curve will start from here, go to the maximum point, and then intersect with the y-axis, then again meet the x-axis over here, then extend and go to the point of minima, and then again come back and intersect the y-axis over here, and so on. So this is my cubic function. Now it looks a bit ugly because it should be more smooth over here, but yeah, that's just me using this drawing pad, and it's not just as accurate as writing it with hand. So the idea is this, right? First find the point where it touches the y-axis, which is this point A. Then find points where it touches the x-axis by putting y equal to 0 and going through this lengthy steps. This is the most time-consuming bit, but eventually you'll get the 3 points B, C, and D. What you then have to do is just find the points of maxima and minima by doing the usual optimization techniques and using double differentiation to find that whether it's a maxima or minima. So that will give you E and F, right? So then it's just a matter of joining them and your curve is ready. So that's how you should plot a cubic function. But again, I don't see that quite often, so I don't know. It's just safe to know how to solve these kind of questions. But there you have it. And any doubts, you can reach out to me, and happy practicing.